All right, so now I have my reference off to one side, I have my sketch off to the other. I'm going to go ahead and open my sketches up with Photoshop. To do that, I right-click on them. This would be whether it was a screen grab, whether it was a scan, or whether it was a digital JPEG I created. So I say open with Photoshop. Here we have them. They're messy, right? These are the things that are most important. First thing I have to do is decide which one am I most excited about. And I think I did a vertical one last semester, so I think I'll do a horizontal one this semester. And this feels like it has a little bit more spatial depth. Foreground, middle ground, background. But if you're more interested in your vertical format, that can be really interesting as well. It has different challenges. So now what do I do? Well, I already have my JPEG saved. And those sketches, that's going to be the first thing I submit for this project. But now I have to clean up my sketch and get it the right size for my finished project. You have to think with the end in mind. So I am going to crop to it. The crop tool is underneath our magic wand tool. I'm going to go just beyond its borders because you do not need to be able to draw perfect proportional rectangles for your sketches to be very useful. And I'm just going to roughly kind of frame in my sketch in a way that I think feels right. Then I hit return. It will crop out all of that other information. But now the problem is my sketch is not high enough quality to print. You can see those pixels really clearly. And especially if you did a screen grab from your sketchbook, it's very low quality because it's screen resolution. So once you've cropped it, now you're going to go to image, image size. Like our exercises, having the right pixel count, the right resolution is key to having a high quality product. So first thing, I want to make sure I have the lock here, the little chain link between the width and the height, so that both of those move together, so it always stays proportional. Next thing, I want to make sure I check the resample box. And that allows me to actually change the number of pixels, not just reorganize the dimension, but change the pixels. In this case, I want more pixels. So I say resample. Right now it is 5 megabytes, and it is 1,839 pixels by 987 pixels. I want it to be closer to 19 inches wide at 350 pixels. Why 19? Well, 13 by 19 is the large paper we can print on. In fact, this semester, for the first time, we can print up to 22 inches if we want to. And that's why I'm saving it at 350 pixels per inch, because print resolution is 300. So by saving it at 350, if I wanted to enlarge it even more, I have kind of 1/6 amount of space, like about 15% more. I can make it larger and not lose quality. So mine doesn't fit perfectly within 19 by 13 inches, and I don't want to force it to necessarily. I want to let my reference do what it needs to do. So this is good. As long as it fits within 13 by 19 and it's 350, we're good. Notice that it went from 5 megabytes to around 68 megabytes. So that's what you should expect for yours. Something between 60 and 80 megabytes, just for your sketch layer. Then you say okay. So that's a lot bigger. Because we upsampled, you're not going to be able to tell much because I made this digitally, but it's going to really soften the edges of your pencil. It's going to make it look like your pencil was done with like a wet tissue, like smeared in graphite. But that's okay, because this is just our guiding template. In fact, you might even decide to double click on the background and rename it layer 0, which will make it so you're able to take its opacity down a little bit, so that those black lines don't really cramp it for you. And then if you're really particular, and I am, I add a layer. So I say new layer, and then I fill it, edit fill with pure white, and I drag that behind to be my background. And I lock both of those so that I can't accidentally edit them. But that's just the beginning. because this is now what I want for my landscape. This is my plan, but it doesn't give me a lot of room to work. And if I was making a collage and I kind of upscaled my photocopies of my sketch, put them on my drafting table, I'd also want all the rest of the space around my table to put my clippings and things. So that's what we're going to do next. And for the first time, we're going to intentionally increase our image size. But this is only after we've already sized what our finished landscape will be. Now, in order to remember what these borders are, I'm going to use the Move tool. I'm going to turn my rulers on, which is Command R. So you can see the rulers on the sides. And I'm going to click on the ruler and drag down, and it should snap to the edge of my frame. And I'm going to do that on all 4 sides to give myself a visual guide showing me where the boundaries of my landscape are. And those guides can be turned on and off with Command semicolon. So they don't need to distinguish. Now we're going to go to Image Canvas Size, and I'm going to make the desk around this sketch. So my desk is going to be 40 inches wide, because mine's wider than it is tall, and 30 inches tall. Why 30 by 40? That's a standard full-size sheet of print paper that fits in a lithograph press. It's a nice art standard. It's big. If you were doing a portrait format sketch, you would do your width of 30 and your height of 40. And then I say, okay. You get there by going to Image, and instead of Image Size, which changes the pixels, Canvas Size, which changes the actual format. And you see how it grows this big empty space around my sketch. Once I've done that, I'm going to File, Save, and rather File, Save As, because I don't want to overwrite my sketches. And now it becomes Carl Assignment 1, Fantasy Landscape, instead of just my sketches. This will be my finished file, this PSD file. Saved to the desktop as a Photoshop file. You can hit F11, make sure it shows up. There it is. And it's big. Now it's even bigger than the 80 megabytes because now it's got all this extra open space, so it's closer to 100 megabytes. And it's going to get even bigger. So if I need to, I can have my sketch open in the corner in preview if I need my notes and stuff, because it's a digital sketch. Or if you have it in your sketchbook, you can just have it handy so you can reference your notes if you want to. Like that this is a starry sky. But if you're organized, like I tried to be, I should be able to find these elements pretty easily. So my 1 is labeled 1 and is right here. So I'm going to drag and drop that in now. And it will come in at whatever size it comes in based on its native pixels. What I do is hold down Shift so it doesn't distort, and I shrink it roughly to the size I think I'll need that element, maybe a little bit bigger. So those are those trees in that corner. That's for 1. And then I hit Return. And then just like our cartoon jumble, it comes in as a smart object, and so it won't let me mess with it, which is good, because I don't want to accidentally screw it up yet. But I'm just going to move it off to the side. So that's number 1. Number 2, let's bring that in. Big chunk of ice. I don't need it quite that big, so I hold down Shift. And notice I'm not rasterizing any of them. I'll show you a better way to do that. So maybe about that size, move it off, hit Return. Number 3, where does number 3 go? Number 3 goes up in the corner here. How big does it need to be? Notice this one came in not as big as the others. That's just because it wasn't as many pixels. But it's still big enough for what I need. If this came in really tiny and I had to grow it to make it fit my sketch, then my photo wasn't high enough resolution to use. That looks about right. Number 4 is, I think, in the sky. Yep, there's number 4. That's nice and big, but I don't need it quite that big. I need it about that big. So I place it, I'm going to push it off over here, or maybe even up here. I know it's there. And unless I crop, all that information is still there, even though it's off my desk. And all I need are 5, right? Number 5. Looking in the greens. Was this one, the icicles. Horizontal 5. Those icicles are just barely big enough. I don't want to grow them though, because that will upsample the pixels. So I'm just going to place them where they are. But that's flirting with not being big enough. And then number 6. I think I was just for the black stones. And then last one, number 7. Oh, I have a lunar eclipse somewhere. I'll get to that later. Was this 7? I didn't mark it green. I should have. Yeah, I think it's just those trees in that corner. Probably just this mass here. About that size, move it off. Okay, and then my X factor, my weird shells, plenty large. I'm going to kind of fill in that background. In fact, I might even decide to flip it like this. Nope, I need the lighting. Yeah, probably flip it like that. All right, so now I've got these 8 references. All you need are 5. You see they all came in above my sketch layer, and they all came in as smart objects. So right now I can't edit them, and I want that. So this is what you do then. You turn off all your layers except the first one, just like we did with the cartoon jumble. Now I'm going to use my lasso tool, and I'm going to roughly cut, very rough, because you want a lot of overlap. Roughly cut out the part of the image I want with my lasso. And then, instead of deleting, I am going to duplicate. I'm going to lasso around the part of the image I want, and then I'm going to hit Command J to duplicate. But I have to turn that layer on and be selected on. I didn't like it because I was selected on a layer that wasn't turned on. But I want this layer. So now Command J, what that does is it duplicates it onto a new layer that's already rasterized. And that gives me the best of both worlds. It allows me to keep my reference image at full resolution. So even if I had to take that original reference image and grow it again, because it's a smart object, it would still be perfect resolution. And then take the part I want and rasterize it on its own layer. And then what do? I move that into place, and I kind of settle that in for now, right? Next, this big thing, I select that layer, I select around my rock, but I might want some of this stuff on the bottom, and I get lots of overlap. So I know I don't want that watermark there. And I lasso around what I want to keep. I hit Command J. I turn off the smart layer behind. And I move this layer into place. And I can hit Command T. And I can adjust it. All right. Number 3. And this is why I might refer to my preview document. So number 3 is up here because it's getting covered up. I just want that ridge line of the mountains because the sky is going to get replaced.